Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
The Madness Comic Network and Comic-Related Madness proudly presents Madness Tuesday Morning Brew. Tune in to our content on Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
Good morning and happy Tuesday, everybody. It is I, Laurie Calcaterra, your hostess with the mostess, the woman that needs no intro because I come armed and packing. I am really excited this Tuesday because I have a really great guest. I don't know. I think legend is appropriate here. I just want to say I'm going to read some of these characters and properties that this man has been a part of. And if you have read comics, if you are into this culture, this man has helped shaped your idea of who these characters are. So I'm going to start reading. Okay. So Conan, The Hobbit, Moon Knight, Batman, Birds of Prey, Catwoman, Green Arrow, Simpsons, Transformers, and so many more. I can't even begin to list all of the comics that have been written by this man. And let me tell you, he's had a hand in creating some of our most beloved characters, such as Nightwing and Bane. Everybody knows Batman. It's like, be yourself unless you can be Batman, and then choose Batman, right? So I'm going to bring in our guest today, Mr. Chuck Dixon. Hello, Mr. Chuck Dixon. How are you today?
Very good, Laurie, and people of Earth.
People of Earth, welcome. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to pick your brain. Being a brand new writer myself, I've been in this for maybe a couple years. And to see the whole list of accomplishments under your belt, I jumped at the opportunity to really sit down with you and pick your brain. Let's see here. Where do I want to start?
So many places.
I know. Well, I was interested when I was researching you, because that's what we do, right?
Right.
When it says kind of like where you started was this comic called Evangeline.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the first thing you were writing?
Well, I worked in children's books a little bit before I got into comics. I always wanted to be in comics. I never wanted to do anything else, but I got an opportunity to write children's books and be published. So I did a little bit of that. And then Kamiko was a company that opened up like 45 minutes from where I was living. So I went over and pestered them, and they eventually were the first people to publish Evangeline. So Evangeline, I guess, is officially my first comics work.
So was that one like superhero? Was everything kind of superhero at that point?
Yeah, everything was, but I wasn't interested in superhero genre only. It wasn't even my primary area of interest. Evangeline is a science fiction, hard science fiction series. It's about a nun who works as an undercover operative for the Vatican, seeking out evil across the universe.
That's awesome.
We used to get letters from people saying, "Well, nuns don't act like that." And I say, and they were always from non-Catholics.
The nuns were actually having a ball reading this, probably living their best life in their head, because being a nun is very restricting. That's awesome. And it's funny because, again, when I'm doing my research, it says like Evangeline, and then it skips right over anything else, if there was anything else, and goes right to Marvel, where it says you started writing backup stories for like Conan and some Westerns. Is that really what happened? Were you writing Evangeline and then just got scooped up by Marvel, or like how did that progression happen?
Well, there was kind of a gap between Evangeline and there was a time I was doing other work, a day job, and then I kept making a run at comics, and 80s comics, there was like this explosion of new publishers and everything else, and so I simultaneously got breaks at Marvel and Eclipse Comics, because at Eclipse I started writing Airboy. And almost exactly the same time, Larry Hama at Marvel assigned me backups in Savage Sword of Conan, and stories in another anthology title he was doing. So so I got like a double break there, and eventually was able to quit my day job. So
nice, because that of course is the goal, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Get out of the menial every day, right? And then do this full time. I just recently did that last year. Actually, it's been a whole year now, where I gave up that day job and was like, this is it. This is what we're going to do. So that leap of faith sometimes. What's that?
You got to go for it.
You got to. Otherwise, it's like if you're not giving it your 100%, all of your attention, how can you expect to make that jump?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
I always use the example of I think it was Blackbeard who would if he had his pirate crew boarding another ship, he set fire to his own ship to
what?
give them the incentive. There's
Like,
no
hurry
place
up.
to come back to. There's
Right.
no plan B.
Like, we gotta go.
We gotta go. We gotta make this work, or that's it.
That's it. There's no backup plan. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, I never had a plan B. You know when you're young and you're in high school and your parents are always, well, think of like a backup plan.
Yeah.
No, I don't want a backup plan. I want to write.
So even from when you were in high school, you were like, I want to be in comics. This is what I want.
That's all I ever wanted to do. I mean, from a very young age. I mean, I drew my own comics and wrote them, and I was always doing that. And it's like this is what makes me happy. This is what I was put on earth to do. So
That's awesome. And to be able to walk the path that you know is for you, that's amazing. And not very many people get to do that.
no, I'm very fortunate. I'm very
Yeah.
fortunate. I got all the right breaks. I was in the right place at the right time. So
Very cool. So I want to understand this a little more because where I'm at to where you are, I'm trying to understand like how to make the gap, right? How to bridge that gap. So when you went to Marvel and to other publishers, were you applying there? How did that even come about? Like, how does that happen for a writer?
well, it's getting to know people really.
Yes.
I got to know people that were already in the business, people that were around my age who had broken in. And I met Tim Truman. He was doing a lot of work for Eclipse, and that's how I got the Airboy job. I mean, he had recommended me to Cat Ironwood, who was the editor there, to work on some of their anthology titles. So I wrote some horror stories and some science fiction stories for their anthology titles. And then when Airboy came up, he recommended me as writer for that because he knew I was an Airboy fan. I was already, I knew who Airboy was. He's a golden age character, and a lot of people had forgotten him, didn't know who he was, but I was very much a fan of the stuff. And then at Marvel, a friend of mine, Hilary Barta, he's an artist, a cartoonist, a super talented guy. We were just talking on the phone. He said Larry Hama was looking for people to write for an anthology title of war and Western stories. And like,
Yes.
that's my stuff, war and Westerns. So I contacted Larry and eventually sold him stories. And then once you do that, once you establish yourself with an editor,
Mhm.
and they have faith in you, they begin talking about you. It's like,
Mhm.
this guy, his stories make sense. He hands his work in on time. He doesn't have a lot of excuses. He doesn't need his hand held. You just tell him what to do and he does it. And that gets around. And then from that point on, except for special projects, I never had to pitch.
Nice.
They called me. And I've been very lucky that over the years, people have contacted me. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? So,
Yeah, at that point, your work kind of speaks for itself, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, you're rewarded for merit. I don't think comics are that way anymore.
Now, see, that was
No,
my next question is it still like that? Or,
no, no.
how, things have always been evolving.
Right.
But at this point, what would be your best advice for someone like me, if I were to pitch to like Marvel or DC?
Well, I mean, the problem is it's like I said, it was about networking
Yeah.
before, but then you had to prove yourself. And it seems like today it's just about networking. Like if you went to the
Yeah.
same school as the person you're applying with, or you like the same music, or whatever, they give you the job. And whether you fail or succeed at it, they continue giving you work. Because we look at comic sales and it's like, well, why do they keep hiring these same people whose projects fail over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And then when they're desperate, they turn back to some big pro who's got a following. But I don't see them discovering a lot of new talent. All the new talent I see is independent, in either independent publishers or even more so independent projects like crowdfunding.
Right.
You know,
I was saying that, we've been talking about that for a long time. It's like how, if you want to even be discovered by these guys, I say the big two, that's Marvel and DC, because they're so constricting, they're so limiting, where it's like, you have to write our projects, you can't write what you want, it's just that kind of idea of you lose some of your freedom by working for these guys. So it's like a lot of people that used to work for the big two are now writing their own independent stories and using crowdfunding like Indiegogo and Kickstarter to make their dreams happen, which they couldn't do while they were hired. So it's kind of a weird way that it all works. It's like we all want to work for them, but then we don't.
Well,
so where do you go?
It's really all changed. I mean, it used to be the end game was to get hired by Marvel and DC.
Yes.
First of all, that's almost impossible now.
Yeah.
And secondly, that's not really the road to success anymore, because you can do it on your own, or you can do it through independent publishers, but you don't have to get Marvel and DC's imprimatur to have a successful comic career. And that's actually been true for quite a while, because if you look at like comics and graphic novel sales in the trade, Marvel and DC don't even get on the list a lot of times.
I know.
I mean, you'll see names like Fantagraphics, and then when you get to manga, forget about it. Manga just crushes Marvel and DC in sales. So so there's this new pathway for individuals to create comics, which is really the best way to keep comics going. Because people always say to me, with the kind of the decline of Marvel and DC, is this the end of American comics? And like, no, American comics, they're never going to end.
They're never going.
It's such a simple medium to work in. There's always going to be comics, but I see like this new resurgence of interest and certainly more variety than we've seen in decades.
I completely
as far
agree.
as look and genre and all the rest of it, which pleases me, because I've never been a specialist. I've never just written superheroes or just written horror. I just write comics. I'll write any kind of, as long as I'm interested in the material and I see it as a challenge, I'll write any kind of comic.
That's awesome. That's what I strive for as well. It's like, I'd love to have more titles under my belt this coming year, 2023. We just started publishing the first one, but it's like, what else can I do? What other genres can I do? What can I get involved in? So I think the fun of it is like not being stuck, in one genre, where it's like superhero or Western or horror. There's so many options out there, and I just want to write them all. So.
Well, you don't want to be stuck in one mindset either.
Right.
In comics, there seems to be only one kind of editor anymore, and they're just kind of indifferent, except to push an agenda. I mean, back when I was doing a lot of comics, there was the editor who wanted to micromanage you, and then there was the editor who hired you and left you alone. And invariably, the editor who hired you and left you alone had more success.
I just think the projects are better when you leave the creatives to create. Right.
Yeah, as long as I mean, when Denny O'Neil hired me to write Robin, he knew I was reliable. He knew my stories made sense. He knew I cared.
Yeah.
And I was concerned about the quality of the work, and I would sweat the details, and I was earnest about it. And then once he knew that, he just let me go. Now, if I stumbled, he would have said, "Okay, sorry, it didn't work out." But I didn't stumble, and I didn't stumble primarily because I knew he had faith in me. And I wasn't sitting there second guessing myself. I don't know if you've ever written where your editor is leery about you, and you're second guessing yourself the whole time. He's like, "Well, will he like this? Will he like that?" But you can't do that when you're writing. You can't worry about what anybody else thinks but yourself.
This is true. So far, I haven't had that experience. My editor is wonderful, and she pretty much just lets me create whatever I want. And she'll just come in and be like, "Here's where I can help." You know what I mean? But typically she's just like, "It's your world, create it." So.
But I mean, I've worked with guys, Denny O'Neil, Archie Goodwin, Larry Hama, and every once in a while they'd come in and go, "If you just did this, it would be 1,000% better." I'm like, "Yep, you're right. You're right."
And that's what we pay you to do. Exactly. Read it, see where the holes are. It's like, and a lot of times like the light bulb will come on and you'll be like, "You're right." And not only that, let's do this, this, and this. And now it's like everything else opens up too. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a good editor makes your stories better because, it's some, but they've got to be pulling an oar with you. They've got to be a partner, not a boss.
Right.
And I've been lucky. I've had a lot of terrific editors.
I had a question about golden age characters, as you call them. So it's like someone else has been writing them, right? And then you kind of come in and you have your run, and then you pass it off to somebody else. When you pick up someone else's storyline, not necessarily storyline, but property, right? Do they give you like a handbook? Like here's the notes you need about this character, or here's the rules of the world, or here's the rules that this character won't break, stuff like that? Or are you just given a blank slate, like, here you go, do whatever you want?
Well, I mean, when I first started, I was working with characters I was very familiar with. So you're being handed off characters that, I've been reading these my whole life. So I know, I understand. I think I understand these characters. And of course you find out you really don't, because, knowing the character as a reader and knowing the character as a writer is two different worlds. And so now you've got to learn things about the character that aren't necessarily on the written page. And that's where editors guide you. But in recent years, I'm dealing with a lot of characters I never heard of before. Yeah. And people are like dropping new stuff on me. And basically they just give you the comic. And my thing is like, let me read the comics, the previous comics, or let me read your outline or your whatever, and then just let me go, and do whatever. And if I get it wrong, tell me, and I'm glad to rewrite. I'm perfectly flexible with rewriting, but I can't be sitting here worrying about every little detail.
Right.
Correct me when I'm wrong. And I work a lot with Richard Meyer at Splato Comics. And Richard always says he'll give me some crazy idea and a cast of characters, and then I've got to run with it. And he always says, this isn't what I wanted, but I love it. It's not what I had in mind, but I love what you did. So we always go with my version. But so yeah, there's more of a learning curve for me now because I'm not dealing with Batman or Conan or whatever characters.
Good morning, Carissa. See that, and that's where it's like when characters have been around for so long and they have such a big fan base. So I guess it's different because you were writing Batman in the 90s, but here we are, 2023. There's been so much more material, and it's like if I were to pick up that Batman story and really pay homage to that character and the history, there'd be a lot of research, I feel like.
Well, the other thing is you have to be cognizant, especially when you're taking over a long running series, and now it's your run beginning, and hopefully it's going to be a long run. You have to be cognizant of what came before. I hate it when writers take over something and it's like, well, it's mine now. I'm just going to tear up everything that went before. And it's like, wow, you just
pissed off every single reader.
Yeah, you just said go to hell to everybody that was reading this title up to this point. And it's like, no, you have to ease them in, and it's not, it shouldn't even be a conscious effort. You have to continue whatever that previous writer was doing, and then eventually your vision or your ideas or your tone will seed its way into it, without you even thinking about it, because you're you writing it. So your world point of view will show up in this page, but you can't just, hey, it's a whole new era because I'm writing it. Hey, this character's been around 85 years. You're not going to be doing anything that different. Your job is to just keep this character fresh and interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the hard part too. It's like when you've been writing Batman, you know what I mean, and you have all these established villains, and he's been fighting the same freaking villains, like you said, for 80 years. How do you come up with something new and exciting?
Yeah, well, a lot of times you have to come up with, versions, new takes on old stuff.
Okay.
I'm right now I'm reading this big fat omnibus of Silver Age Batman stories, and these are like 1956 to 1959.
Right? So good.
And this is the stuff I was reading as a kid that was reprinted in 80-page giants. And I'm looking at it and I go, wow, this stuff must have influenced me, because and I forgot, because I'm seeing stuff in these stories that I played with later on when I was writing
Yes.
just these little elements about the Batmobile or about the cave or about the Bat Hound or, whatever.
Right.
And I'm playing with this stuff. And it's like, I must have in my lizard brain remembered these stories,
Who's back there?
my version of them. So, it's not like I'm rerunning it or rewriting it or, rebooting it. It's just I'm delving deeper into it because we can now, because comics are quite a bit more sophisticated than they were in the 50s. We can deal with this stuff in a more dramatic way. We have more real estate too. Stories are longer than they were.
Right.
So you can explore a lot of these concepts. I mean, I always use the example of when I wrote G.I. Joe, I had an advantage over Larry Hama, who was writing G.I. Joe, because he was tied to a schedule of toy releases. So brilliantly done, given the constrictions. But Larry had to present this toy in that issue with a story that made sense to have that toy in it.
Right.
And without the reader realizing this is a commercial, and Larry did it brilliantly. He never just seamlessly folded this material in these new characters or a new vehicle or whatever. But the difference was when I was writing G.I. Joe, I didn't have to worry about any of that. He had established everything. I could tell the story in whatever order I wanted, using whatever I wanted and everything else. And so I could dramatize things in a different way than he had. And that was my advantage. So that was the thing. I'm not changing anything Larry did. I'm not breaking anything Larry did, but I have the opportunity to explore it in a way he didn't.
This is a good question from Doc. He says, Chuck, have you ever had editors ask you to write something you really did not feel good about?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of famous for taking my heels in. So if I didn't feel good about it, I didn't write it. I wasn't, I'll do anything to stay with this job. No, I won't. My name's going on this, so it has to be something. I remember a lot of long meetings, particularly at DC Comics, where they wanted me to write stuff I didn't want to write. No.
You just say no, huh?
No.
You're just like, nope, I'm not doing it.
No, I remember once my editor and another writer, and we were in a room for an hour and a half while one editor tried to convince me to write something I didn't want to write. And the other two knew I was never going to agree to it. So they just sort of like sat looking out the window.
They're like, he's not going to say yes.
No, it's
like,
come on. Can we just go to lunch? That was seriously, that one editor said, look, let's just go to lunch. Chuck's never going to agree. It's pretty obvious.
That's hilarious. But kudos to you for that. I mean, it's hard, especially these days, like you said, like if you really want to keep that job, are you putting your job on the line when you're like, no, I'm not going to write that? But
yeah, well, I was thinking long term, and thinking about the character and just thinking, this isn't about me, but this idea is stupid and it won't work and it's going to turn readers off.
Yeah.
So I argued once. I just happened to be at DC one day, and they had me sit in on a conference call with another writer, and the other writer was relatively new, and he had a story where Batman reveals his identity to Commissioner Gordon, and it was for just one story idea, and everybody was ready to agree to it, and I said, "What are you, crazy? You're going to change continuity forever for the sake of one story, one issue?" I said, "This is insane. You can't do that. You have to stop."
Forever changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah. I said, it's not just for the comic fans, it's for the general public out there who knows, even if they've never read a comic book, everybody knows Commissioner Gordon doesn't know who Batman is.
Right.
And then the argument was, well, why wouldn't he? He's a great detective. And it's like, well, maybe he doesn't want to know. And I said, and secondly, why would you assume Batman has a secret identity in the first place? Why wouldn't you assume that Batman is Batman all the time and he sleeps all day? So
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
That
actually reminds me of Superman? Who is Superman? Why would Superman have a secret identity?
Yeah, there's no point of that. Absolutely not.
Point. I mean, there's a point, obviously, for the character, but to the general public within that reality, why would they just assume that?
You're right. That just makes me laugh because I just started reading Avalon, which is available on ArcTunes, and there was a moment right in the beginning where he's being interviewed by the lady from the Sentinel,
Yeah.
Evelyn Sentinel, and she was like, "Don't you have a day job?" He's like, "Why would you think we have a day job? This is what we do." He's like, "No, we're superheroes all the time."
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then it
when would
shows
we
them
have
at their
time?
day job, and I was like, "This guy flips burgers." So that's just funny that came up because I was like, "Aha." We'll talk about Avalon some more in a little bit, but
Okay.
Paul Gomez, I don't know if he's here or not, but has a show on Wednesdays called The Reality of Publishing. Him and I were talking yesterday about some predictions for 2023, and there was some talk about Todd McFarlane going back to DC and bringing back the Batman Spawn crossover.
Right.
Have you heard anything about that? Like,
No,
no.
I haven't heard anything about that.
But so just so people are aware, you were a part of a Batman and Spawn crossover, correct?
Yeah, back in the 90s, they Todd published one and DC published one.
Okay.
So yeah, I wrote 16 pages of a Batman Spawn crossover or team up or whatever.
Were they teaming up? I don't know if they would be friends. Were they friends?
Well, they were together in the story. They were fighting some greater evil that was threatening Gotham. But yeah, how that came about was we were at a Bat Summit. We were at some resort up on the Hudson talking about Batman for 3 or 4 days, and Denny brought up this Batman Spawn thing, and he said it's going to be a huge seller. So I don't want to give it to just one of the writers. So he gave it to all 3 of us.
Okay.
And then we wrote our names on a piece of paper, and someone pulled the names out of Denny O'Neill's hat. And Doug Mensch's name got pulled first, so he wrote the beginning. And my name got pulled second, so I was to write the middle. And then Alan Grant's got pulled third, he was to write the end. And then Doug and Alan went off that evening and plotted it. And then came back and presented us with the plot, and then I was assigned my little 16-page middle part. And my only thing was I had 2 questions. I said, "Can Batman make fun of Spawn's cape?" And Todd said, "Okay." And I said, "Can Spawn, when they're introduced, say, 'You can call me Al'?" And Todd said, "Yeah, that's cool. That's all right." So those are my things.
That's hilarious. You guys,
and
it did
sell. It did sell huge. It's
yeah.
huge. They paid royalties for years and years and years and years. So thank you, Denny.
Well, you might see more of it coming soon.
Yeah.
Todd's coming back. You know,
Right.
people are going to go to that source material, and that's already there.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That would be really cool to have that. Oh, hello, Pops.
Well, we hope they use the source material.
No. I'm not saying for what they're going to do. I'm saying that when they bring it up, people should automatically go read the source material.
Right.
Like when they bring out movies, people usually go read the books. If they're smart.
I can tell by the interaction from our friend Doc, who also runs a show on the network.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably going to want to talk to you, too. I'm just saying.
Oh, do you want to invite Doc?
No, I don't mean right now. I mean on his show.
Oh, on his show. Okay. I was like, I don't know. I don't want him taking over my show. I still got lots of questions left.
Yeah. It's your show.
This is my turn to talk.
Mine's mine.
Right. I'm going to fight.
I do have a question for you, Chuck, but it's not comic related.
Okay.
Because sometimes we want to know other stuff about you.
This is
what
true.
kind of music did you jam to?
That's a great question.
In your 20s, what made you like get the juices flowing? What was your thing, man?
Mean creatively?
Well, I mean, what kind of music did you love, bro?
You want to talk about music? I was, I wasn't in any, like, I graduated high school in 72, and I wasn't into any of the music that was out then. I liked stuff from the 50s, and I liked a lot of British invasion stuff. I love the Kinks.
Cool.
We'll do.
Oh,
there you go.
I got you, Chuck. I got you right here, bro.
So I was a big fan of Jerry Lee Lewis and
cool.
There you go,
Buddy Holly and stuff like that. So the
See, all
coaster.
the things that my mom was listening to, like the Patsy Cline and all that stuff all sticks to you when you're a kid and your
it
parents
does.
are playing that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Jeannie C. Riley, all kinds of stuff that, we listened to. And of course, she was a huge Elvis fan. She keeps sending me all of her Elvis stuff as she gets closer to going out. Like,
Wow.
I got all the old TV guides and everything with
Wow.
Elvis, man. All the 45s and 78s.
Wow.
All the,
Wow.
you know.
I when I was about 3, we lived in Philadelphia, and my mother took me over to see Elvis get out of a limo at the Philadelphia Arena. And I still, for some reason, I can remember it. I was up on her shoulders, and I saw Elvis get out of the back of a limo in a Wrangler jacket and jeans with a whole bunch of guys in suits. He walked from the limo, crossed the sidewalk, went into the arena. So
cool. Now, I don't want to steal
Still got
Lori's
to
time,
steal.
but I wanted to know. I mean, like I said, I like to know some things sometimes that just ain't about comics.
Right.
I like to know what drove you people when you were doing this, So I appreciate you letting me jump in, Laurie, ask a question. I think Doc is saying you have a standing invitation, Chuck,
Okay.
to join Doc's coffee shop. That one's Saturday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
But he's
good.
in the madness. You can find him really easily, Christopher Blalock. If you can't find him, hit me up. I'll connect you guys. No
Okay. Okay. Let's do that.
I'm gonna get out of here and let Laurie continue her wonderful show.
Thank you. I know they're all good guys. I know they're all.
I thought he'd never leave.
I know. No, just kidding. I could see him laughing in the back room, so he's a good sport. All right. So we've talked about I was amazed by the fact that at one point it says on your Wikipedia page, if it's correct, that you were turning out 7 titles a month.
For a while there, it was 8.
Wow.
Because
You were
I
writing 8
when the
issues.
Punisher, all the Punisher books were facing cancellation, they basically assigned all 3 of them to me, and that put me up to 8 titles. Because I was doing a
Wow.
lot of stuff at DC. So yeah.
Were you on like a schedule? Like you're like, today I'm going to write Punisher, tomorrow I'm going to write Batman. Like, how do you?
I used to write, I've always written way ahead of deadline.
Yes.
Back at DC, every month they would send you a sheet of paper and it would have your assignments on it, what date they were due. And a couple of months went by, I didn't get any. And I called Bob Greenberger, who was in charge of that. I said, I haven't gotten a schedule. And he goes, it's irrelevant to send them to you because you've already blown past them. By the time you get them, you've already done all those assignments. So because I work way ahead of schedule, it allowed me to say yes to projects because I had time.
There you go.
So like typically I would work, atypically like Nightwing. When I got Nightwing, I just wrote Nightwing for 3 months. And I got a year's worth of comics done in 3 months. Other ones, I'd stay on it. Like in a week, I could do 2 Robin scripts, and maybe start a third. And so that way, just stay with it. And because people always go, well, how did you switch from this one to that one? And I don't have an answer. I just did.
Yeah.
I'm writing Punisher now.
Yeah. I get that because I write a couple different series as well. So it's like your brain just kind of like, okay, I'm turning off on this one and turning on this one. And you just put yourself in the world and you go.
Yeah.
So I get that. But I think as an artist, when artists are just so submerged in one world, it's like they have trouble disconnecting and something else.
Yeah. The drawing is in a lot more immersive because they're spending so much time on that one page.
Right.
You or I might spend 20 to 30 minutes writing that page, but they're going to be all day drawing it. But it's different when I write prose. It's different because it's hard to jump back in if I've been away from it for a while. I start a novel and I get interrupted, and then I got to go back and I basically got to reread everything I wrote to reintroduce, get back into that tone or that voice.
Yeah.
Whereas in comics, I don't have that problem. I can just, you could stick me out on an ice floe and I could write comics.
don't know what. We're gonna stick you. No, that's what they do to people when they're gonna die. Like they just push them off into the iceberg, right? They're just like,
Yeah, I'm fully writing comics.
Like we'll float out to your iceberg after you're gone, and we'll just collect your comics. No, we won't do that. Okay, we're not gonna do that. I wanted to talk to you about First Kill. I mean, we've kind of been seeing this trend recently with actors writing comic books, right? And then, give me a second. Let me pull up the screen. Here we go. So this is First Kill. So this is your story with Sylvester Stallone, right?
Yeah.
Amazing art. Look at this. And for people that don't know Indiegogo, this was already completed, right? The Indiegogo is over, but they still sell kind of like in demand. So if you wanted to get a copy, you still can go to Indiegogo and get a copy. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, the campaign's over. It was very successful, but we're still selling copies. So
when did the campaign run?
Boy, I guess it ended like 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Okay, so recently, yeah. So we're starting to see a pickup of like Keanu Reeves with Berserker and like Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone writing comics. And it's interesting to me that these guys who have been living these stories, now get to kind of create their own world and their own stories and can find someone as skilled as yourself to like tie the pieces together and make it cohesive and getting these, very talented artists to put the story together for them, which is amazing. So it's kind of like what we were talking about, like leaving Marvel and DC, leaving mainstream Hollywood in order to just still, excuse me, get to the answer, which is this is what's fulfilling. This is what they want to do.
Right.
So just beautiful. How did that even come about? Like, how did Sylvester Stallone, because it says also on your Wikipedia page that he asked you to do a rewrite of The Expendables 2?
Well, I did an Expendables prequel comic, and this is before the first movie came out. I was working off of his screenplay, and he had this amazing. It's not in the movie. I mean, the finished version of the movie is very different from the screenplay, but in the screenplay, he had this sort of shared language between the main characters, where they were completing each other's sentences, and they had all their own private inside jokes and all this other stuff. And I tried to capture that in the comic. And the comic came out. It was out for a while, and the movie came out. And I get a call, and this woman says, "Would you hold for a call from Sylvester Stallone?" I'm like, "Okay." And he gets on the phone, and he says, "I read your comic, and I really loved it." And it turns out he's a huge comics fan. He reads a lot of comics. He says, "I really liked it. You really captured what I was going for. And would you like to come out and do rewrites on Expendables 2? We're doing a sequel." And I'm like, okay, I'll take a shot at that. I've never written movies before. And, he had me come out, and he was at a production meeting with me, and we pitched it. And as I always say, it seemed to go great. But then I found out later, all production meetings seem to go great. And then you leave the room and they talk about you.
And then they rip it to shreds. That's what happens.
So Sly and I head for the elevator while they're like in there going, nah, we're not doing any of this.
Come on.
So they offered me, just to get rid of me, to make Sly happy and to get rid of me, they offered me this ridiculously low ball offer to do rewrites. And I said, I can't work for that little. And that's where it should have ended. And in a normal Hollywood story, my name would have been forgotten immediately. But Sly kept calling me. He kept calling me on the phone and just talking. And we got along so great. And we're both from Philadelphia. And he started getting me work. He got me work doing web content for Lionsgate. He got me a job doing the dialogue for an Expendables video game.
Cool.
And then even after that, he kept calling, and he talked to me about the fifth Rambo movie.
Yeah.
while he was still thinking about what to do. He talked to me about different things about the Expendables, sequels and his plans for it. And at one point he said, the movie I'd love to make is The Expendables Go to Hell. And I said, well, that sounds great. What's it about? And he goes, they literally go to hell and fight Satan. And I'm like, they're never going to green like that. And he goes,
No.
well, I know. I know they're never going to green like that.
Great comic book.
I said, what about a comic book?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, okay. So I called Richard Meyer, Splatto Comics, the biggest Expendables fan on earth. Yes. And I said, Richard, sit down. I have something to tell you. And he's laughing. And I said, no, seriously, don't be driving a car or anything else. Sit down while I tell you this. And so I told him, and he was so awestruck that he couldn't believe what I was saying. Literally could not believe what I was saying. He says, so you want to do a comic like The Expendables? I said, no. I want to do a comic and it'll have Sly and Dolph Lundgren and, they'll all be in it.
Jason Statham, Jet Li, put them all in, dude.
So next day I had the first 5 pages written. By the end of the week, we had promo art.
Nice.
Because working with Sly, man, once you start working, you start working. And we had it all figured out. So then, we had such a great time and seriously made some real money off of that thing. I said, well, let's keep going. How about Rambo's first year in Vietnam?
Yeah.
And Sly's like, yeah, let's do that. And that's how this happened.
Amazing.
So he's a rarity, man. He's a terrific guy. I mean, he didn't forget me. That doesn't happen in the movie business.
No, it really doesn't. And I mean, it's like, it's who you know, but again, it's also work ethic. And I think it's the guys that are like, I don't know, it's like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, the ones that have like the discipline to build the muscle. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, they're more disciplined and they're more focused. They're more driven than the people that are just like the go-to, you know what I mean? Like I have people that will do that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing of the past too. It's like, you don't get a lot of people like that anymore. Maybe Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Guys like that. But Keanu Reeves. Also, I talked to a guy recently. I'm working with a guy who did the effects on Cliffhanger.
Cool.
And he told me, he said, it was a decent script. It was an okay action film. And then they bring Sly on board. And he goes, and everything ramps up to 11. He said, this guy comes in with ideas.
Right.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do it? And he says, it was crazy. He goes, he elevated. I mean, that is like a seamless, perfect action film. Yeah. And it's a classic. And he said, it's all because of him.
That's amazing. And it's like when you could take something that's just like mediocre and it's like, yeah, it's great. But then to like bring in that one person that not only hates it, but like acts in it, it becomes like their own. It's their passion project. That's how you know stuff is good. And it's like, at least he has that clout where it's like people got out of his way and it could be what it was. But for like someone like me, where I have an idea, I feel like there's so many other things that can, you know what I mean? Where they're like, here's your $5,000. We're going to take your script and we're going to hire Chuck Dixon to rewrite it for us,
Right.
Stuff like that happens all the time.
So, yeah. I mean,
it's,
when you work with these people, you got to turn your heart to stone, because I remember talking with a guy, they were going to option Winter World, a series I did called Winter World. And they had me talking with a screenwriter and a producer. And the subject comes up and they go, well, what if we made the girl a little older, right, in the story? And I said, look, once you buy it, you're going to do whatever you want. So why are you even bothering to talk to me about this? I said, if I sell it to you, if I sell you my child, I have no control after that. So if you want to make her older or turn her into an orangutan or, whatever you want to do, that's what you're going to do, because it's going to go, it's going to go from you to another screenwriter, to another screenwriter, to a director, to and they're all going to put their 2 cents in.
This is what gives me anxiety, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, this is why we have the crap movies we have now. I mean, when's the last time you saw a movie and said, "Wow, that was great"?
It's been a long time. And usually they're independent, or it's like someone
Yeah.
brand new. I'm a horror fan. So we were talking about this too, where it's like movies like Paranormal Activity, the first one,
Right.
super low budget, great
Yep.
idea, executed well. And then
Yep.
Hollywood got it and made Paranormal Activity 2, and it became something else. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And that's what happens these days, where it's like we have these really great breakthroughs. Blair Witch Project, when that one first came out, it was like no one had seen anything like that before. And again, super low budget. People did it on their own to make it what it is. And creatively, it's a masterpiece. And then now we have Blair Witch Project 7. And it's like, come on, these are terrible. Why are we making these? So sometimes I just don't get it. Like, Hollywood has all this money to make Sharknado and Velocipaster and all these like really what do I call them? They're not that great. We'll
Yeah,
just
they're
say
just
that
crappy
way.
movies.
They are,
Yeah.
but it's like someone made it, so I don't want to, poop
Well,
on
yeah,
their
they
parade.
made it and they knew what they were making, and they used
Right?
to call them fast play movies because they'd only be in the theaters for a week and then go on.
And then they're done.
Uh,
Right.
I don't know.
But then indies like ourselves who have these great new ideas, and it's like we just want our story to be heard, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you get in a production meeting and it's like, wow, the thing you got to remember in a production meeting is just say yes to everything, and then go do what you want. And I read that recently. I read Mel Brooks's
Ooh.
autobiography, and he said that's what he would do. He would take all the notes down and then just ignore them. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
he said that in Blazing Saddles, Warner's wanted him to take the fart sequence out.
Oh, come
like,
on.
okay. No, didn't do
No.
that. And it's the one everybody remembers. As
Of
silly as
course.
it is, it's the one. But for example, at the Expendables 2 production meeting, it's not like I've been to a million of these,
Right?
but I've been to a few and a lot of conference calls, and I said, look, I have a new ending for you, and it was this really well set up, multi-layered action scene to climax the film, where Sly meets the bad guy, and they have it out hand to hand. And I came up with an interesting environment and a ticking clock and suspense. I said, look, and this way you don't have to end the movie on a giant explosion.
Right?
And they said, every action film ends on a giant explosion.
You're like, but listen to what I'm saying.
That was my mistake. I kept arguing with them.
Damn it.
And I said, you know what? You're right.
You're like, this is just a different explosion.
Right. Yeah. It's it's like, because I thought, let's avoid the cliche. But no, they love the cliches because that's conservation of risk. They're comfortable with it.
Yes, then see, that's what all of our movies are now, is conservation of risk. It's like, this is a formula that works. We got to check all these boxes, and then we get the same movie
over and over.
time.
It's like, you want fries with that? How about tater tots? No, it's got to be fries. It's always fries.
Fries, dang it. Like, you don't get a milkshake, you get a Coke. That's it. That's what you get. It's hard, man, to try and do anything different. But then we get people like Taika Waititi who will come in and he'll do something new. Right. But then the people like it and then they overplay it.
Yes. Yep.
Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay. It's like when Pulp Fiction came out, everybody wanted to be Tarantino, and it's like,
right?
No, only Tarantino is Tarantino.
Only Tarantino.
Find your
Tarantino.
own way. No
one else can pull off the blood and guts and gore in the manner that he does it, with the tongue in cheek, and you just can't. You can't in the style that he does it.
Right, and in that sometimes endearingly amateurish way he makes films. It's like, this is his individual vision. This is a guy learning on the job, and that's kind of what we like about it.
Yes, he's trying something new.
Yeah.
Oh man, the whole I also do martial arts. So Kill Bill was fabulous for me. It checked all the boxes because it had the ninjas, it had all the samurai, swords, it had the Western element, which I'm a fan of Westerns. Right. So like I really, really enjoyed that movie. But the fact that they had to use black and white in the tea house because it was too bloody, and that's how they got out of that, you know, NC-17 rating. It's like some of that stuff it's like after the fact, but it made it more perfect. So it's the same thing. Like he was experimenting with the level of blood until they were like, it's too much, Quentin, we can't do it. And he's like, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna make it black and white, and that's how we get out of this rating. And it just made it. It's almost like Dadaism, you know what I mean? Like going back to my art history days, where it's like you break something and like, okay, now it's done. It's perfect. You know?
Well, that's where, you know, I mean, sometimes you run into a problem writing, and then it turns out the problem was a blessing because it forced you to rethink everything.
Yeah, I just came to that too, where I was writing a fight scene and I got stuck because I was like, it needs something more. It needs to have a moment that shows who this character is, because at first I had her killing everybody. And then I was like, no, she needs to leave one. And because I couldn't finish it. And then one of my artists was drawing a concept of the character it's a long story. Anyway, one of the characters is special, and he drew her, and I was like, I like her too much to kill her. So then that's how it became like, okay, this is the moment where my main character looks at her and is like, I will give you mercy. You know what I mean? And that moment is atypical for this character because they usually just wipe the floor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then it became, okay, now we can develop this character by not killing that one. And the only reason I'm not killing her is because she's so cool looking, because my artist spent a lot of time on her. So it's funny, you know, how things evolve that way, where it's like, all right.
I ran into much the same thing on I write the series of novels, Levon Cade novels, and they're about a vigilante.
Yes.
And he's usually the only guy to walk out of the room.
Right.
But I had this one character, and I didn't like him, but he was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, man, it's a waste to kill this guy.
A waste to kill them. Yeah.
And so I set it up so that Levon spares him. He has, you know, for whatever reason, spares him. And then he's in the next two novels, you know. And the thing is, my proofreader, my nitpicker in chief, Michael Hutchison, he said, you know, boy, I'm glad you didn't kill that guy.
Oh, good.
You know, he's like, I hate him, but I'm glad you didn't kill him.
But then it's like, then you can write the consequences of that action in there too.
Right.
Does that character grow? Does he owe him a favor? You know what I mean? So there can be all sorts of stuff that happens based off of that one decision.
Yeah, they have a complex relationship after that, where he's like, he's sorry he left him alive, but has to acknowledge it's a good thing I left you alive.
Yeah,
because there's all these different situations that draw the two of them back together again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's like those kind of things, those writing problems that, like I said, if you stay ahead of schedule, you don't have to worry about it, because it's like, I'm going to walk away for a little bit and think about this, you know.
That's where I am as well. We are publishing issue number 2. We're almost done. My artist he just finished line work and he's coloring. So we'll be published this month. And that's issue number 2, and I'm writing 26.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's the way to do it.
Far ahead.
That's the way to do it.
It's great. Now you can see the whole big picture, right? And
you can go back and forth.
I can be like, hey, this is really interesting. I can go back to issue number 6 and I can foreshadow, or I can have someone walk through the background, you know.
That's what happened with me on the first year of Nightwing. I was able to go back and tighten everything up because I had all 12 issues written before Scott McDaniel started working on the artwork. Mm-hmm. So myself and the editor, and this was in the day of when writing for the trade began. And we began thinking of this first year as 2 trade paperbacks, and how would that work, and how do you format that? What difference, how it makes the different approach to the work, because you're thinking in those terms, you know, without sacrificing the monthly comic reading experience.
So trade paperback is like once, how often do they?
It's like every 6 issues is a trade.
Okay, so then they put it into,
But a lot of guys were writing for the trade thinking, I'm writing one big long story like a feature film, and it's like, no, you're writing a story in 6 chapters,
6 parts.
Because if you looked at comics like mid 90s on, you'd have issues where almost nothing happened, that they were all set
Yeah.
up or all. And I'm like, no, you can't do it that
You
way
can't
because
do
you're
that.
cheating that
No.
reader. You know?
I know. But that's how like TV is, like Walking Dead. You watch an episode and be like, nothing happened.
Oh, well, I mean, you can watch recent seasons of that where nothing happens. I'm like,
Right. So
what happened?
oof.
You know, as a writer to writer, what the hell happened to that show?
I know. There was I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think what happened is that it got so big, they took some of their probably main writers and put them on some of the spinoffs. I don't know. Plus, they had source material that was great. How do you F it up so bad?
Also, how do you forget this is a horror action suspense story,
Right.
and I couldn't finish. I barely finished season 9. I could not get through season 10 because they did this thing where the characters would all have a theme that they talked about for the whole season. It's like, what we did before, and we have to forgive ourselves, and every character is talking about it, and it's all in the same writer's voice,
Yeah.
episode after episode. I was like, oh God, they're talking again. That's not why I watched this show.
No.
I watched this show for
Oh,
this
man.
impending dread, this horrible stuff that might happen, and then none of it
Right.
happens.
And
So
it's
what's the
like
point?
every season in the comic, it's like the bad guys, the people got worse. And it's like it
Right.
was less about the undead and more about the different communities out there and how terrible they were to each other.
Right.
And it's like, how do you survive people when
Right.
everything is broken?
Exactly.
And I just, it was such a great series. And then the fact that I stopped watching, and I'm a zombie fan, and I'm a horror fan.
Yep.
So that says wonders. And
Same here.
yeah, when I have other friends that are writers and in the zombie comic genre, and none of us are watching the show.
Right.
Bad.
Right. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, but I don't know how you get it that wrong and just keep doubling down on getting it wrong over and over and
But
over.
that's like a really common thing right now that's going on in Hollywood, where it's like they basically take a big dump on the source material.
Yeah.
They're either not reading it, or they're actively changing stuff to try and be different or edgy, or I don't know what. But it's like, if you want to tap into that pre-made audience that comes with that, property,
Right.
why would you piss them off?
Well, also, I mean, I've read a number of people at Marvel Productions who say, well, all the good stories in the comics are told. It's like, what?
Then,
Mangog, the Four Sleepers.
God,
I mean,
no.
It's like you've got decades of material you haven't mined yet.
And like they're just bringing some characters like Moon Knight. They just brought him to the screen. Nobody knows unless you're into comics.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the people
Right.
that are not have never seen him before. This is their whole first experience with him. And it's like there's so many characters like that have a rich history.
Right. And you can't walk away or ignore the core elements of any of those characters.
Right.
And you can't just switch and change them around or do whatever you want with them, because there's a reason why those characters survived. I mean, comics is a cutthroat business.
Yes.
And your character had to sell or he was done for.
Right.
And these characters survived all that, all those changes, all those different generations of kids, changes in editorship, changes in creators, and somehow these characters came out still indelible on the other end.
Right.
And then now you think you have a better idea or you can change them or warp them in some way. No, you have to go back. Maybe you think the comic books were silly, but and they were, but you got to go back and mine that.
But that's canon. That's the history of this character.
Right.
And to just ignore it, like I'm just going to use The Witcher as an example. I don't even want to watch the new one.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, the way they're promoting it literally checking boxes.
Terrible.
Oh, we have this for the first time and this for the first time. Isn't it about it like a guy that, medieval sword and sorcery thing, right?
Yeah, it's about
what do
him.
I care about all of these 21st century elements you're trying to
No, and it's about him. He cannot have kids, and this witch, she gives up some of her organs to become who she is, so she can no longer have kids, and the two of them adopt a child. that's the core of the story between the
Right.
three of them, is this orphan that becomes kind of like their surrogate child between the three, that's the core of this. And they just completely changed it. And it's like, Witcher has a child. No, Witcher can't have a child. Like, it
That's not
doesn't
right.
work that way. So it's like, I'm not even gonna bother. And I love some of the actors and actresses in it, but I can't.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. I see that over and over again. I mean, I was always a do or die guy. I was like, if I start watching something, I'm going to keep watching it. And I started
yeah.
something on Netflix last night, and I'm 10 minutes into it and go, no, I can already see that this is going nowhere. This is going absolutely
So
nowhere.
that's my thing, is like, how do voices like my own and like the Zombie Bros and like Ronnie, who's in the chat, and Pops, and Doc, and it's like we all have these great ideas, and it's like, how do we get our voices heard these days? And it's almost like you just have to, like you said, you have to find a new audience. You have to get out of your own neighborhood,
Right.
and meet people and make connections. And I don't know.
I mean, it can be done. I mean, obviously it is being done in comics.
Right?
I mean, I have friends who are extraordinarily successful at the crowdfunding and doing their own thing. I mean, Graham Nolan's creating his own little comic book empire. He's
Cool.
got this huge following. He's very successful. He's very talented at all of it, the crowdfunding, the fulfillment, all of it. And that's what you got to do. You got to do the heavy lifting. We're all our own PR department. We're all our own fulfillment department. I didn't want to do a lot of the stuff I have to do now. I don't want to be on 100 conference calls, every month, but that's just the nature of the business now. I look back with fondness on the days where I just sat making stuff up. That's all anybody wanted from me. But now, you got to do all this other stuff. But, that's just part of the business.
This is true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing right now. Like, for example, we talked about First Kill. Let me share this page. What is Subscribe Star? I'm not really familiar with Subscribe Star myself. Can you tell me more about?
It's like Patreon, but it's it's basically it started because I was doing these Ask Chuck Dixon videos, and I'm not anywhere near the level where I'm making any kind of money off them. And I thought, well, but it's taking time away from the writing. So I pretty much started a Subscribe Star account and said, hey, if you give me support, it helps me make these videos. It helps justify making the videos. And I don't have a huge subscription base because, quite frankly, I don't spend a lot of time promoting this. But basically, if you join in the $5 tier, I'll send you a package of like signed comics and signed special goodies. I recently did a Chuck Dixon minifigure that I sent out to subscribers, and then every month you get digital goodies. I'll send you unpublished scripts, unpublished artwork from stories. Yeah, some of these are restricted to $5 subscribers. And then it gives me another place to promote. So this is like hardcore fans of mine, which I'd like to see grow. But like everything else on the internet, you gotta let people know what's happening, and that's the hardest thing.
Right. Half
like
of the time it's like
I'm waving.
Right. It's like people would love to support you if they knew you existed.
I mean, Graham and I talked about this last week, where we still hear from hardcore fans, and by hardcore I mean fans whose names I know, right? And they'll say, "So what are you doing lately?" I mean, what am I doing? I got crowdfunders, I got this, I got that. And then other people are like, "Where have you been?" I was like, "Where have I been? I've never stopped writing. I've written 36 novels. I've got this, I've got a digital comics every week. I've got publication comics coming out all the time. But if it's not Marvel or DC, they don't know what you're doing."
It's like, here, I have a webpage. You can sign up for a newsletter. I'll send it, like, you can follow my blog. I don't know.
But that's another thing. You're probably the same way. I'm building my email list. I mean, that's not something I ever wanted to do.
I know. It's like I had to learn. It's like I was pretty good at Facebook. I'm okay at, Instagram, but then it was like, okay, now I have to learn Twitter, and I'm on TikTok.
Yeah,
I make videos like. Whoa.
as an example, when Graham started his thing with Compass Comics, he's out there promoting. Now we're on Facebook every day, private messaging each other every day, and I didn't hear about his project for 3 weeks. It didn't show up in my newsfeed for 3 weeks.
Yes,
and it's like, okay, whose hands are on the levers here?
I have complained so much about the algorithm because what happens is a lot of times if you're putting a link to somewhere else like crowdfunding, like if you put a link to your Kickstarter, if you put a link to your Indiegogo, the algorithm squashes the activity.
Put links in comments, everyone. Put your link in the comments.
In the comments. And it's actually more helpful if someone else does it for you.
Oh,
so like myself.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, I'll that's a great piece of advice. I did.
Yeah. So like I'm in a group of other zombie comic book creators. Right. So there's me and there's these three other guys. So usually what we'll do is I'll be like, hey, I just posted. Can you go drop my link? You know what I mean? Wow. So they'll go put it in my comments and I'll do the same for them. So we kind of support each other that way. You know, anything that we can do to kind of help get it out there. But it's like,
yeah, I'm going to do that. That's good advice.
You have to trick the algorithm. Isn't it terrible? It's like social media was made so we can connect to people, but
no, it wasn't.
No, it was made for them to make money.
I mean, I would like to go back to like 2000.
MySpace.
Yeah. Well, no, even earlier, just the message boards. I mean, I was able to reach. I had a message board, and I reached tens of thousands of people every day. I started the message board to bring my 3 DC monthly comic title sales closer together on the charts, and I did. Within a few months, my titles are selling identical numbers. Basically everything went up to Nightwing numbers just by my message board, and it was a level playing field. There was nobody with their hand on the lever saying, "No, you can only reach so many people." I mean, $10. Yeah, I mean, I wish we could just go back to that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did the Facebook ad, and it, according to that, it said that it reached like 12,000 people. Do you know how many of them came and backed my project?
None.
Do you know what? I had a redneck come at me and tell me to get the F off of his Facebook page. Otherwise, he was going to come shoot me. So that's fun.
That's a human contact. That's a social contact. Yeah.
This is kind of the opposite of what I was hoping for $10.
I've done the same thing. I've given Facebook money and I don't see the needle move. Right. And then I send out 50 private messages and I see the needle move. And I'm like, okay, how do I even know you did what you said you did? If you did what you said you did, I would have seen the needle move. I would have seen more orders, and I didn't.
No.
So I don't think they're doing what they say they're doing.
I don't think so either. Either that or like the parameters are not set up correctly, where it's like they're just sending it everywhere. And it's like people in China are not going to back my, not that people in China are even on Facebook, but my point is like, you're probably sending it to people that are like, it's my grandma. Like she's not reading comic books. And definitely not a Western zombie apocalypse one. So come on.
You bring things up I can chime in on.
This is why we have pops. This is why we need people like
the very first campaign I was promoting back in 2017 or something. The guy paid for Facebook ads. Now, everybody that knows me knows I'm social media all day. So if you paid for an ad, I better see it. Okay. I didn't see dude's ads at all. So I've known from the beginning that that's a waste of money, and I tell people do not.
Right.
Also, when you build that page, Facebook wants that money grab.
Yep.
That's why I made a group. Okay. I can promote all you guys' stuff all day long, and nobody says nothing to me. But if I had a page, it would be pay us. Pay us to promote your page. Pay us. Man, Zuck got money. Don't need mine.
No.
Don't need mine. Okay.
Do better.
This is why we built this network. That's why I made the Facebook group where all this stuff is grown out of. is to get eyes on people's stuff and to give people a place to share their links. Come out here and talk about what they're doing. And it's grown into 25 weekly shows, even with all the people that will not promote what we're doing.
Wow.
We're still growing, even with the people who absolutely refuse to give all these creators a platform.
Right.
All it takes a retweet or a share, you know. It's like it's we're trying to build something for everybody.
Yeah. It's like pulling teeth. It's like trying to get reviews on Amazon. It's like
Yep.
Bezos, another one I try not to give money to. I'm sorry, people, but you know, if you're on Amazon, I'm probably not buying it because Bezos made way too much money the last couple of years for my liking. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm gonna get back out.
Bye. So anyway, this is what happens, and it's good. It's fun. So let's talk about. Let's see what else we got. Oh, we got a YouTube page to share. I'm going to share that one. Let me get this one out of here. So, what do you do? What do you talk about on your shows? You know, what do you like to focus on when you do your YouTube channel?
Well, it's just Ask Chuck Dixon. People send in questions.
That was a subtle way of her saying she hasn't watched your show. I'm sorry.
I understand.
I haven't had time. I've
been that.
Pops, tell the man I had COVID.
I got to give you a shot every now and then. We do replay Chuck's show at noon every Thursday, but he does it live on, or he plays it himself on his own channel on Wednesday nights. Correct? Yeah.
Wednesday at midnight. Right. It pops up when I do one.
But I love these. It's like Ask Chuck Dixon. So
people ask, and then depending on how late in the evening I do them, I can get pretty candid. So
do you have some refreshments while you're recording?
No, I'll do that, but it's just sort of like what the hell, I'll tell you the whole story behind this one, and then I'll tell do segments on what I've been reading and things like that. So. Cool. It's uber geeky. It's super inside baseball nerdy, and
that's what we like.
It's got a decent audience.
Yeah.
So
I will be tuning in as well. I was like, you sent me all the links, and then I promptly got sick, and I was like, dang it!
Oh man, that's not good.
No, I had COVID over Christmas, and
was that the first time?
Yeah.
Well,
which
now
is
you had
actually a good thing. You know what I mean? Like the virus is gotten weaker and weaker as time goes on. So it's like, if you're going to catch COVID, catch it later.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I did. I caught it, late in the game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It just kind of drags along. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like
the symptoms last for a while. There's like a couple of weeks, like, I don't know how your strain will be, but it was like a couple of weeks where you'd have these periods of disorientation, which is really weird. It's the weirdest flu I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, it was like a really bad flu. Hi, Chris. How are you? Chris works, he's my publisher.
Cool.
Hello, sir. Right? Like, say hello to the publisher. Hello. Lots of good stuff on here. So I got to ask you, what do you have a favorite that you like to write? Because I know you were involved in so many. Do you have a favorite?
I mean, genre?
Or just, property. Like, did you really like
you
were in Batman for a long time? Did you like writing the character Bane? I noticed that you have a ton of Banes behind you on your shelf. I love when people come to the show and they have like their nerd display behind them. And I'm always like, what is back there? I saw there you have comics of Morpheus. I couldn't read some of the smaller ones.
There's a whole 2 shelves of Bane action figures.
Yeah.
And then these things, these are Osprey military reference books.
What?
So they have hundreds of. So they're if I need a visual reference for, what did the German army in Africa in 1917 wear? I got it. And I can scan it and send it to the artist. So
that's cool. See, I just Google stuff where I'm like flammable gas. Like,
yeah. Sometimes, contrary to public opinion, not everything is on the internet.
This is true.
So I still need all these visual reference books. I guess I don't need them, but I want to help the artist out. I understand. It's like me and Larry Hammer are the only writers who provide our own visual reference. But if
I
I'm
like
asking
doing
you to
that
draw it,
too.
I want to help you out with what it looks like.
Right. Well, I mean, at least they can see what's in your head. Like,
Yeah.
um, I do,
Also,
like
if I'm doing historical stuff, I want it to be accurate. If a Japanese soldier in 1943 is lighting a cigarette, I want him to have the standard issue Japanese Army cigarette lighter. And I got the picture.
Right. I just did that too, where it's like, how would an EMT greet a person? So like this what I'm writing for their dialogue is exactly how EMTs talk to people when they show up on the scene,
Oh yeah, that's all good stuff. That's all good stuff. Yeah,
You
that's
want to be
the
accurate.
hardest thing for me to find is, okay, a crew is landing a plane. What are they
Yeah.
saying to each other? Things like that.
Right. Right. And that's just part of the fun. You should see sometimes, you claim that you're a writer, but it's like when you look at the search history, you're like, what is this person doing? Like I am researching a murder mystery. Thank you.
I am trying to get on the FBI watch list.
And it's pretty much what happens automatically. I'm pretty sure I'm on some list somewhere because I was looking for like flammable things and like blowing things up. And at one point, so I was just like, oh, this can't be good. But whatever.
I wrote a SEAL team novel, and I was looking up, Al Qaeda recruitment.
Oh, you're on a list.
Exactly.
I think you confuse them. They're like, Chuck Dixon. They're like, the writer Chuck Dixon?
Yeah. It's like, they should have offered me a job.
Yeah. They would have been like, how did you? All right, let's answer Quentin's question. What was the inspiration for creating Bane?
We knew we needed a new villain for Nightfall. He had to be Batman's intellectual and physical equal.
Yes.
But have a character flaw, and that flaw was going to be Venom. He was addicted to this super steroid narcotic, whatever it is, amphetamine driven serum. And that's all we knew about him. And I argued that for Nightfall to work, and this was a 2-year continuity we were talking about, this villain had to click. The readers had to respond to him. They had to relate to him. He had to be successful. And I said, how do you do that? We're not in the business of creating characters we know are going to be popular. We just throw stuff against the wall and pray in comics. And, I'm sure Jack Kirby thought Silver Surfer was a one-off. I created the spoiler. I thought she was a one-off. We need her for this story. We're never going to see her again.
Yeah.
But how do you intentionally do that? And Denny O'Neil said, well, if you think it's going to be so damn hard, you go home and do it. So I wanted him to be a Latino because and then I read an article about in North Korea, you could be sentenced to serve time for a relative's crime. If they couldn't catch your father, they put you in prison. And I thought, wow, what would it be like if a kid got put in prison for what his dad did? And then I thought, whoa, what if he was born in prison? Born to a life sentence in a third world hellhole prison. And Bane came out the other end of it.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's like, how do you pull on people's heartstrings to get them to connect, almost pity this character, but yet they're so terrible. It's like he just gives them like a license to like, they are going to be so terrible to our character and destroy him, but you're still going to like him, because
I like characters that send your moral compass spinning. So it's like, oh, I'm sympathizing with the guy. Oh my God, he's a monster.
But those are the best ones, the ones that people can relate to, and see themselves in, or like, it's like almost that underdog. It's like all the best characters have this underdog complex. It's like they come from nothing, they have nobody, or they're orphans, or they come from bad circumstances and then become something bigger than themselves. It's like we have this feeling that we're attached to them and we want to follow their story and see them succeed, but it's like, it's different when it's a villain. It's like, we don't really want them to succeed, but we want to see them, I don't know, vindicated, you know?
Well, also, you want them to have depth so you can believe in them.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a character like Tony Soprano, and you're like, well, this guy's driven, he's ambitious, he's smart, he's funny. I like this guy. And then he does something absolutely horrible. And you realize, oh my, what am I thinking? And you have to constantly reset your moral compass as you're watching him.
Yep.
So,
yeah, they're all like that.
And just when you think you know him, you see this other side, this deeper darkness within him, and it's not contrived. It was always there. You just didn't see it. I mean, that's brilliant writing.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And it's like something that we strive for, you know what I mean? To make these characters, you got to have your good guys. They can't be all good.
Right.
And your bad guys can't be all bad. There has to be some kind of, they have to believe that they're doing the right thing, you know, and be able to.
I mean, every character has to have something you like about them and something you don't like about them. And people go, well, what about Batman? I was like, well, Batman can be a bit of a jerk now and then, you know? And I would always bring that out.
He doesn't have that great track record with kids. I'm just
saying. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was talking about that Batman Silver Age thing I'm reading. Yeah. They had a story that by today's standards, it's the most perverse Batman story I've ever read. And they contrived this reason why Dick Grayson can no longer be Robin. And Batman's out trying to recruit other young boys to be Robin. And he's in disguise. He's in disguise as a cab driver. And he's like prowling the city looking for young boys to recruit. I was like, oh my God, every panel of this taken out of context.
Bad, that's bad.
It's like, no.
This did not age well.
This is so wrong.
Nope. Oh my God, that's so funny. Quinn asked the question, what is your view on Christopher Nolan's Bane? So the one that was in the movie.
Well, I'm glad he made him a household name because that actually turned into cash for me.
See what I mean? That's what I'm hoping for you for this Todd McFarlane thing coming up. Like,
well, thank you.
Go read the book.
So, he also showed him as a mastermind. That he was. I wish he was the ultimate mastermind. He wasn't just doing Talia's bidding, but they showed him as a chess player, smart guy, and they made him scary. But that said, I still haven't seen my Bane on the big screen. The closest is the animated series that I think did Bane really well.
Yeah, I think they did. I was going to say, I think that one, the animated series, they really stuck closer to your material, you know, where it's like he was scary, he was intelligent, right. You know, where he was plotting, he was 3 moves ahead of Batman, and it's like Batman had a hard time hanging with that guy, you know, and had to recover and try again because he broke his back.
Exactly. So that was, you know, that's good stuff. But you know, he'll show up again, you know, in a movie.
I think he is one of those characters that's just like all time. You know what I mean? Like they'll revamp him lots of ways.
As hard as it is for me to believe, he's a permanent member of Batman's roster. You know, he's there with the other classic. I mean, that's like, wow. If I do nothing else in comics, that's my mark. So yeah,
bravo, sir. You've made your mark. I hope to be remembered like that someday, where it's like this character that we all know and love, you know, was created by moi. So someday we'd like to check that box on the list, you know?
Yeah. When they start making references to the character on The Simpsons.
Yes. That's how you know you have made it, when you're on The Simpsons.
Yep. Then you know you are a pop culture touchstone.
Yep. Well, I think you've done lots of stuff to be a pop culture creator, molder. You know, you've influenced a lot of people, including myself, you know, reading comics and watching the material, you know, that they make from this. So it's really cool to be with you. Sorry, I'm just going to nerd for a second.
Oh, no. This is fun. I'm having a good time.
Good. Let's talk about what you're working on now. So you're currently writing. Where is it? Here it is. I brought up the wrong one because I was going to show Spin Rack, but let me show Avalon first. So you're writing. How often does Avalon?
It's weekly.
It is weekly.
Yeah, it's a weekly.
And that people can purchase these as well.
They can purchase the first book, but we're going to be doing two big fat trade collections.
Cool.
Because everything's complete. All the artwork is complete for 12 issues.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
We're ready to go.
I kept clicking. I was like, I'm on 6, I'm on 7. There's 86 of these.
Yeah. Well, each episode is like 2 pages.
Right.
So
I was like, I'm just flying through. I'm like, this is fun. So there's 2 guys. It's King Ace and Phaser.
Right.
And they're in the city of Avalon.
Right.
Which, by the way, is a reference to King Arthur, right?
Yeah, it's also its geographical location is the bottom of the Jersey Peninsula, basically where Cape May is, and there's a little town, little beach community called Avalon there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I named it partly King Arthur, partly my childhood at the Jersey Shore.
That's funny. I did not realize because I've never been to Jersey Shore.
Okay, so it's the bottom part of the peninsula. It's Cape May, and it encompasses Stone Harbor, Wildwood, Avalon, Absecon, all these other towns in that area. So it's just a made-up city.
So this one, in this city, there are vigilantes and heroes, right? But some of them are asking for money or demanding money. It's almost like they're mob thugs.
We have a character named Cash, and if he saves you from criminals, he expects something out of your wallet.
It's like the very first scene that you open to. It's like this mom and pop shop getting mugged. They're 2 guys in masks. They're like, "Give me a register, blah blah," and then this guy shows up and like takes him out, and then he's just as bad. He just shows up with his hand open, like, "Okay, that was easy for you to get out of. You owe me." And they're like, "I guess.
Something for the effort," he says.
Something for the effort. It's like, okay. No, it's very tongue in cheek, which makes me laugh. And like the scene where it's like, we don't have day jobs, and he's like flipping burgers, and I was just like,
yeah. They offered me a chance. They said, did you want to like a street level superhero comic? I'm like, it's cool because there's no previous continuity. I can do to anything these characters I want.
right.
So that leaves it wide open. So they go through a lot of changes over these 12 issues.
Yeah, and I like how the pitch kind of talks about like temptation, and it's like even though they start off with these morals where it's like we're the good guys, we're not going to be tempted, but like everybody goes through temptation. So it's like I'm interested to see what kind of temptation you throw at these guys. It's interesting, but it's like that female character. What's her name? Vendetta. She's lethal. Shows up and just offs a bunch of dudes, but totally deserved it. You know what I mean? So where does that line?
She's got a really weird secret. So
I haven't gotten that far yet. Don't spoil it for me.
I won't tell you, but she's got a really, really weird thing going on.
Wow, I look forward to finding that out. But yeah, it's like where they're talking about we don't cross that line no matter how bad the guys are, and then she shows up and just totally crosses the line.
Right.
But you almost want to side with her because of how terrible these people are, that she found this group and what they're doing. Yeah. And it's like, what would I do in that situation? I'd probably kill them all too.
Yeah, she's taking down the scum of the earth. So there's different levels. Yeah, I deal with all of the superhero vigilante tropes, but hopefully in a new and fresh way. Because I'm not tied to continuity. I can kill them, change them, do whatever I want with them. Because I'm not, tied to a corporate continuity.
Right. Or anyone else telling you, no, you can't do that.
No one tells me what to do on this stuff.
Yes.
No one tells me what to do. So,
that's the best part.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun, working with Frank Fosco at the beginning. And then, boy, I wish I could remember the artist's name who does the rest of it. I can't remember it. Renzo doing the rest of it. So it was fun. And in this you can look on. You're on the Archaven site, but at the Arctoon site, you can read it for free. Digitally,
yes.
Along with a whole bunch of other stuff I'm doing, including My Sister Suprema and Something Big.
Arctoon's website.
A bunch of other series. Have you checked out My Sister Suprema?
I have not.
You should. I guarantee you're going to like it. Me and Anthony Gonzalez Clark. It's a character I wanted to do for years. I could never find the right artist, and Anthony came along and he's killing it.
I'm not gonna mess around with that right now, just because we're on the show.
Yeah,
I don't want to
it's
click on the wrong thing.
Definitely, and anybody watching, check out My Sister Suprema, and if you know kids, who like comics, direct them to My Sister Suprema, because it's fun for adults, but it's a good comic for kids too.
Okay, good. Because that's always a good thing too, is like, us as adults have been reading comics for a long time, and now our tastes are adult. So it's
Right.
like we want to write things that cater to us, but still we want to make sure we're writing new things, young adult too, to like get kids into the imagination, because we still want the next generation to still be able to enjoy what we had as kids. So it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like they shouldn't be trapped into the Marvel and DC world.
Whatever they're doing. Yeah. I mean,
Right, exactly.
I've always written, when I've written mainstream superhero stuff and stuff like that, I've always pictured a precocious 10-year-old as my audience.
Mhm.
And precocious 10-year-olds, they're not easy to write for. They
They're
want story, and it's all got to make sense, because they get so involved with it. And so I generally aim for writing a 2-tier kind of thing, where it's engaging enough for a kid, but there's enough Easter eggs and Air Force jokes there for adults. So by Air Force jokes, I mean over their heads.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too, where it's like I have the meat and potatoes storyline where it's very easy to follow. It's a cowboy in the apocalypse looking for the answer. But I have all these extra things, like I have Easter eggs and I have riddles and I have short films that people can watch that relate to the source material.
Cool.
So it's like you could go a step further, and for that sophisticated reader, you could solve the riddles and join the groups that the people, for the riddles solvers, or interact with, like, I think the next riddle I have, when you solve the riddle, you actually trigger something where one of my characters will send you something.
That's
so you get
cool.
to interact with the
I
world.
like that. I like that a lot.
So I'm trying to do stuff to like make it deeper and more interesting. But if you're that 10-year-old and you just want to read the Western apocalypse, you can. You know what I mean?
It's like My Sister Suprema. It's about a little boy who wants to be a superhero, and he finds an experiment on a website, and he tries it, but he accidentally turns his older sister into a superhero. Now he has to live vicariously through her. So it's really a sibling rivalry comedy, but it's also a superhero parody. But at the same time, it's an earnest superhero action story as well. So
that's great.
It's got like three things going on all at one time.
Are you one of the writers on that one?
I'm the writer, and Anthony Gonzalez Clark is the artist.
Gotcha.
And it's really funny, and 99% of that is to Anthony. I mean, I write the gags, but he makes them funny. I mean, he really does.
Sometimes it's like the facial expressions and
stuff.
Oh
my God, he's amazing. He's absolutely
because I find that with my artists too, where it's like I'll write something that I think is funny, and then when he puts it on the page, I'm cracking up.
Yep.
And he'll
you're laughing like you never saw it before.
Right. And I'm like, this is my gag, but it's so much funnier than what I imagined.
No, Anthony is amazing at the subtle range of emotions he can get on those characters' faces that really make the gags work, really make it funny.
And sometimes they put stuff in the background too, like Marco Drew. There's a part where there's a jail cell, and like part of it is bombed out because we're in the apocalypse, right? And there's a tree growing through the wall, and if you look at this tree, there's a toilet. And you're like, I have so many questions about how did they put it there? Did it grow there? Like, why is there a toilet in the tree? But it's just like, it's not even part of, it's just this little tiny detail up on this tree. And it's like, if you look hard enough about what he's putting on the page, it's really funny. And he spends so much time building the world, based off of what I envisioned, but he just takes it like 10 steps further, where he's like, I can see it. And I'm like, this is amazing. So
I love it when the artist gets it and then brings all their own stuff to it. I just love it. So I have one artist, Frank Fosco, and he always says, well, I wanted to make this change and that change and that. And I said, go ahead. I trust you. You're a great storyteller. You're sitting there. You understand it. You're interpreting it visually. Do it. And I told him the other day, I said, you're either the most collaborative guy I work with, or you're the only one who tells me the changes you made. I said, all of you might be making changes, but you never tell me about them.
Right. Or it's like you go back and your look was like, was that always there?
Yeah. I mean, I'll read the story, and if it works, it works. I don't go back and compare it to my script. Did he slavishly follow my every word? I don't care. If it works as a comic, I tell all my artists, as long as you make me look like a genius, that's the only requirement I have.
All I'm like is like, these are the key points of the story. Like, these are the things that have to be on the page.
Right.
Everything else is you. Like,
yeah. Don't forget the ring. Don't forget the bracelet. Whatever it is, the MacGuffin. Don't forget to have that in there. And other than that, go crazy.
Right. And then I think that's the best way. You know what I mean? Because they really live it and make it their own. Yep. And it's like your passion becomes their passion, and it always works out.
Yeah, it's a very collaborative medium. I mean, you've got to. I mean, morons who say, "What's more important, the story or the art?" Like,
you don't get it. You don't get it. Right? Try again. Read again. Try again.
Yeah, what's more important, the music or the lyrics? I was like, what a stupid question.
Oh, I'm dying.
Oh.
Where can I find my Sister Suprema? Is it online?
It's on ArcTunes.
Is it on ArcTunes? Okay.
Yeah, I provided you a link to ArcTunes.
I got it.
Go there and find My Sister Suprema.
Yes.
But it's a lot of fun. It's my biggest hit there. So
cool.
I'm very pleased.
ArcTune, is that pretty similar to Webtoons and Google Comics? Like it's just another platform.
We're growing. We're getting close to 11 million views. We've been around about a year and a half.
As a creator, can I upload to ArcTunes?
Yeah. There's a little thing there you can hit, and then I've never hit it, so I assume there's like forms you fill out and then send samples. But yeah, we're welcoming any creators that want to come on ArcTunes.
Okay, I would definitely do that too. I'll add that to my list. And then
the only thing that they do at ArcTunes is they re-letter it, because the lettering is on a different program than the art.
Oh.
So that it can be translated into other languages easier.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
smart. It is global. It is a global reach. The company's based out of Switzerland. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely going to check that out.
It's all creator owned. It's all handshake. You own copyright. No questions.
Cool. Yeah, I would assume so. It's already done. I wouldn't think they would take ownership after.
Yeah. There's none of that nonsense. They don't want a piece of it. If you have a movie made, they don't want half of it. So the crap you run into with a lot of publishers is simply not there at ArcTunes. It's a totally free, open platform. As long as your work meets our standards, and our standards are pretty loose. No sex, no Satan worship, and I think that's it. I think those are the only rules.
Check and check. Good. I got a pretty big undead grizzly bear, but other than that, we're good.
Hey, we're cool with all that stuff.
Here's the last one I wanted to talk about of your links. I'm going to bring up Spin Rack. Spin Rack, if I could actually share the page, that would be great.
Spin Rack takes some splaining.
Tell us Spin Rack, please.
Spin Rack, we're calling it Comics 3.0. It's a digital, not just a digital comics platform. There will be games. We are working on 2 mobile games, and they will be out in a couple of weeks. And what makes Spin Rack different from a lot of other digital comic companies is it's creator owned, creator driven. It's Graham Nolan and me. It's a lot of our IP. There's My Sister Suprema. It's a lot of, it's all of our IP that we own ourselves is on Spin Rack. The mobile games will feature our comic characters. And we're working on a 3D game, full scale 3D game, and all the rest of it. And as well as print and digital comics and merchandise and all the rest of it. For us, this is the next step. This is the next step after crowdfunding, to where we are making our own revenue and just making this stuff happen. And the games are a way to get to that. So
that's cool. I signed up for this. And they were like, why do you want to join? I'm like, Chuck Dixon sent me. Like, so
but we're working with some absolutely amazing people. I mean, we're working with, tech people and gaming people and people in the film business and people in finance and everything else. And they are just all on their game, and they are all super psyched about all of this. And we meet a couple of times a week, and that's all those conference calls and Zoom calls. And but it's a great team.
I know. I was like, I know Pops is listening. I know he's listening.
I gotta do it. Do you guys have a video ad, something that we can play up on the network?
Not yet.
Make one.
We're gonna have all of that soon. I mean, this is ramping up really fast.
Yeah, hook me up, man. I will play it just like we play all these other ads, man. Okay. It's like that's kind of
we got a ton of trust me, a ton of content in the way in just a few weeks. And then you'll just be bombarded. You won't be able to get away from Spin Rack at that point.
Cool.
We got a PR firm all ready to go.
As long as I got an ad I can play to get eyes on it and get people to drive traffic that way, that's
right.
That's my job, bro. Let me know.
Cool. No, absolutely. You'll be the first person I link to.
All right, thanks, man.
Sure.
Okay, bye. So, let's say for myself, for like my property, I have this Western Apocalypse. Would this Spin Rack group be like someone that I could brainstorm with to create a game based off my world?
Absolutely. If there's a gamification, it starts with Graham and I, and we're founders, but we definitely plan on bringing in other creators.
Yes.
We want this to be a home for, all of these people who don't have a home, and also a way to raise revenue for future projects. I mean, get us away from crowdfunding. I mean, if the numbers are showing me and they say they're conservative, even if they're 10% of what they're saying, I don't have to worry about funding ever again because of the games.
And that's always the biggest question for someone like myself is, how do I get off this merry-go-round of Kickstarter?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I want to consistently pay my artist, but there's got to be a way where I'm not begging, pleading, borrowing, and doing like 30 shows in 45 days trying to promote and just kicking my ass, trying to raise the funds so I can pay my artist to turn out a quality product.
This is that. This is,
Amen.
like I said, it's the next step up from crowdfunding. So we're not having to do all, and you still own everything. You still have copyright. Spin Rack's not going to take that away from you. They just want, they obviously want the game rights, and other rights, but all of that's negotiable. I mean, when Graham and I were negotiating the contract with them, now remember, we're founders of the company, so we're part of the company, but we still had to create documents so the Spin Rack, the company, could have rights to our IP. And the one guy said, I've been in film distribution for 30 years and I've never had a tougher negotiation than this.
Yeah, I was going to say,
said, we're comic book people. We've been screwed so many times.
Right.
That, every word of this contract has to be nailed down and our rights secured. And you're never getting the print rights. You're never getting the print rights to comics from us. And once everybody understood that, and they understood it pretty quick, we were off to the races. But it was tough, because I was a tough sell on all of this at the beginning, and then I brought Graham in. I said, we need an artist. It's not enough to have a writer. We need an artist. So I said, let's bring Graham in, and he fits. It's a fun group. It's a fun group to work with. Cool. And they're all like, I mean, our tech guy owns so many patents. It's crazy. He's created so many programs. He's created stuff literally that you and I use every day on the computer.
That's cool.
So
my father-in-law was a patent lawyer, randomly. So it's just like their brains work a little differently.
Yes, very different. Very different.
From ours, especially. I'm like,
they don't make stuff up.
No, they're just like, it's all on paper and you need to read it. But he's like the guy that I would trust to be like, read this document to make sure that there's no loopholes where they could take rights for, you know what I mean? Those are the guys where I'm like, please read this.
Sure yeah. I mean, you read these things, you read a standard contract out of Hollywood or out of one of the comic book companies. It's like, wow, they own. Boy, they just sneaky. They just got everything in here.
Yeah.
I mean, we want, I mean, I've negotiated contracts where I want 2 weeks notice to get out of it. completely. All my rights come back, and they'll fight and fight and fight. And then if they want it bad enough, they'll sign it. You know, I have that with my book publishers, where it's like, man, if you do something I don't like, I want out, like immediately. Well, nobody else ever asked for this. And I said, well, that's their problem.
Don't do stuff that pisses me off, right? There you go.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like if I feel like you're not promoting enough or whatever, or I just feel like, you know, you're just not friendly to the material anymore. Because you know, you didn't have that option at DC and Marvel. You know, you just quit. They weren't going to change the rules for you.
Right. No, and you can't take the property with you. So it's this is Batman that stays there.
Yeah. All you can do is make sure they pay you what they owe you when they reprint stuff and license it and all the rest of it. So you got to watch them like hawks.
Yeah. We forgot. Oh, did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had that one. Oh, we did. Oh, yeah. Well, this is a funny one. Bane has that teddy bear. He's always had that teddy bear, Osito. And they made a toy of Osito dressed as Bane. And they didn't pay Graham and I royalties. And we're like, what the hell? And they said, well, he's an inanimate character. I said, first of all, what difference does that make? And secondly, when Bane has nightmares, Osito is not inanimate. He comes to life in his nightmares. And I said, Graham and I created the Bat subway rocket, and we got money from that, and that's certainly inanimate. So, you know, you run rings around them logically, but you know,
any excuse.
You're dealing with lawyers. Yeah, then they pretend they don't understand what you're talking about. I mean, they don't speak English.
Right. What? Contract royalties?
Yeah.
What's that?
Could you clarify that? It's like I've clarified it 16 times. You're stealing from us.
I'm clarifying that you owe me money.
Yes. Where the hell's my money?
Right. Just sign the check and send it to me. Otherwise, you can talk to my lawyer. You know this routine.
And I'm not going to cry for you because it's just a tiny little percentage of what you made.
I know. Seriously.
Yeah. Crazy.
Like I have experience in that.
Yeah, but you know, hey, if you've ever dealt with an insurance,
like living vicariously through you, like
if you've ever dealt with an insurance company, you've dealt with it.
Well, this is true, isn't it? I mean, I've dealt with contracts and difficult people.
Yeah, we're not paying for that. Yeah, but it says here you have to pay for that. Oh well, send us 16 letters and maybe we'll think about it. So it's just the nature of the business. This is the ugly side of publishing that you don't want to think about. So.
Yep. Paul, this is for your show. Oh my goodness. Is there anything else that you wanted me to bring up on the show before we run out of time?
No, nothing I can think of.
All right.
You know, put my name in on Amazon. Take a look. Go shopping.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Just I know, Pops and Bezos, we get it. Yeah.
Everybody go buy Chuck stuff no matter where it's at. That's, you know.
Okay.
As long as Chuck gets something from it, we're supporting Chuck.
Yes.
Dude, I want to thank you for like decades of awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
It was my pleasure.
I just, you know, when you started your career in the 80s, I was born in the 80s. But my point is I grew up reading your comics and watching the shows based off of your work. So you have definitely influenced me as a writer and me, you know, being in comics. So I just wanted to say thank you for your work and your contributions, because without you, I probably wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Or I should apologize. I don't know which. Maybe you were on a path toward neurosurgery or something.
I definitely was not.
Okay.
Was not.
All right.
Hey, I gotta look at it like this, Chuck. As long as people like Laurie are smiling about what they're doing as they're beginning, and they get the kind of support that they deserve, they'll be smiling throughout their career.
Oh
no, because this is, I mean, you know, it's great, you know, getting up in the morning and can't wait to get to work, you know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many weekends I spent thinking, wow, I can't wait to get back to work on Monday. What am I doing? What am I doing? I should be working, but it's Saturday and Sunday. I owe it to my family. I gotta not work.
Sometimes I just work the weekend. Just depends on when I have free time because I have small
Yeah.
kids. So
There
it's
you
one of
go.
those things like, you know,
You gotta work when you
last
can work.
night I was up until midnight. I was doing some lettering on our comic because I had new pages and I had spent all day looking at them and rereading the script and I just wanted to get it down. So my husband's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm lettering, but you have to see it. It's so exciting." He's like, "I'm going to bed." I'm like, "In the morning."
Well, you know, if you're writing, you're working all the time anyway. So
This is true. It's always in your head somewhere.
yep.
And it's, for me, it's like I wake up out of a deep sleep and I'm just like, oh, that's the answer. And I just
Yeah.
like write it down.
See, now last night I had one of those things hit me where it was an idea that was worthy of writing down. It's like, dang, I don't know if I've ever seen that. Yeah,
There you go.
you know, because
Great
I've read a
idea.
lot of comics, right? So, you know, I mean, there may have been something that's like this, but I can't remember it. So I
I
might
mean,
talk to a writer myself and throw an idea at somebody.
oh yeah. I
I'm,
mean,
hey,
I
I'm just
was in the
saying.
shower last week, and a whole exchange of dialogue came to me for a project that I'm like just beginning,
Yes.
and I sent it off to the guy I'm working with it on, and he goes, "So what happens next?" I said, "I don't know. This
I
is
don't know.
all
I had
have.
to write
This is
down
what I
this.
thought of." You know, this like 2 minutes on film exchange of dialogue between two characters. So that's how
That's
it
really
began.
cool.
Cool.
Chuck, can I send you a PDF copy of my last issue?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey!
You got the email. I'll take a look
I
at it.
do.
It's
I'm excited.
It's pretty awesome.
It looks good from what I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And if you go to her Kickstarter site and you watch some of the short movies that she made that are relevant to the story, dude, she's like got production talent, all kinds of things going on over here. I'm just saying that's
Yeah, you gotta be good at a lot of things now.
Yeah. She's pretty exceptional, and I hope that like when she's your age that there's people out here talking to her and giving her that same kind of respect that we give you, my friend. I want to thank you so much for coming out. Laurie, I'm gonna get out the way so you can say your goodbyes, but Chuck, hey man, we got a lot of shows. Anytime you got something you want to talk about and get in front of a different audience, that's kind of why we got all these different kind of shows, because they all have different audiences.
Well, and we're all going to ask you different questions. Like me being a writer, I'm going to focus on like your writing side, you know what I mean? But like Doc is an artist, and not only that, he's closer to your age. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry. Pops is like, I'm gonna throw you into the deep end on that one, Laurie. Bye. He does that sometimes where he's just like, ha ha ha, good luck. But my point is it's going to be a completely different conversation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Depending on who's on the other side of the camera. So, but you're just such an interesting guy and so relevant to what's happened in the past relating to what's happening now. So, I would love to just pick your brain some more or hang out on Spin Rack or anything. I would just like to continue having conversations with you because I think you'd be a great mentor and all of that good stuff. Sorry, I don't care if there's people watching at this point. I'm just...
I never tell you how to do it. I just tell you how I did it. So
and that's okay.
For good or for bad. And now that I know you have production talent, I'm embarrassed for you to watch my YouTube channel because it's got like 1980s cable access channel sort of vibe to it.
It's nostalgic.
It's very much. It's very retro.
There you go.
Because I'm retro.
It's intentional. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll say it's intentional.
Right.
It's ironic.
Oh, it'll be a good time. I'll enjoy it. So thank you again for coming on the show. Do you want to tell people where they can find you, follow you? We kind of touched on all the things and we put all your links in the comments, but people, if you want to follow Chuck and support him, listen, let's see where we can go.
Yeah, Subscribe Star, Twitter, Facebook. Like I said, put my name in on Amazon, even though Pops doesn't care for that. Barnes and Noble, if you prefer. But yeah, this was great. I like this. This was a conversation, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't an interview; it was a conversation. I like talking to another writer.
Absolutely. This was a blast.
Yeah, it's rare that I get to talk to another, and you're very open. I talk a lot to Mike Baron, but it's like we can sit for 5 minutes not saying anything.
I got to admit, Chuck, Mike is the one that sent me in your direction last year sometime. He's like, you got to have Chuck on your show. You got to have Pops. You got to get Chuck on your show. I was like, it took a little while. I emailed you a few times before I got your attention.
I'm a tough sell. I am.
I didn't have a hard time at all.
We love Mike. We love Graham. We love all, come on, man. You guys are the guys that we grew up with, and
yeah.
Yeah,
well, Mike is awesome, but we'll get together every now and again, and there's always these long silences. We can't get over the fact that we were rivals back in the day, and writers are a cowardly and suspicious lot. So, we never talk about writing; we talk about other writers.
Well, if you talk about writing, you're giving away your secrets.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, I'm getting back out for the last time.
As Nietzsche said, a writer uses his own and his friends' intellects. So you have to be careful around writers.
I mean, it's like, but that's artists in general. It's like, even when because I went to art school, and it's like you learn by imitation, you learn through method, and it's the same thing for writing. Right. You read what you like, you consume it, you internalize it, and then you turn around and use that as inspiration. So it's not necessarily stealing.
No, but
right?
And you bring your own life experience to it, your own worldview, and a lot of times you forget where you saw it.
Right, like Batman, like you were
like
Batman
I said,
as a kid, and it influences the way that you write it. So
exactly,
that's all of us. We all interpret life through our own lens, and then when we create, it's those experiences and sometimes trauma that creates the world that we write. So,
right, and important to not give in to the idea that every idea has been done. I mean, there's formulas and everything else, but there's always that opportunity to come up with something entirely new the world's never seen before.
Agreed.
So I can't even relate to writers who will say, well, everything's been done. We're just writing variations. Like, I'm not writing variations.
I'm not writing.
I'm trying to come up with that new plot. Nobody, I want to be the next Shakespeare. I want to come up with that plot nobody's ever thought of before.
Yeah.
I may never do it, but if I stop aiming at that, I'll throw in the towel. So.
Well, people, this has been one of the greatest shows. I thank you so much, sir, for coming on. I really appreciate you spending your time, 2 hours on a Tuesday to sit down with a brand new writer and just talk about the industry, talk about your experiences and everything. People, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have more questions for Chuck, we're probably going to see him around the madness. That would be great to see more of you and hang out some more and pick your brain and learn from you. So thank you again. And we're going to head out and we're going to play some commercials on the way out, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, sir.
America's southern border has become a war zone. Human traffickers, drug smugglers, and terrorists flow across the Rio Grande with impunity, secure in the knowledge that no one will stop them. A distant federal government lectures Americans on their privilege while punishing overworked Border Patrol agents who were helpless to stem the tidal wave of invaders and determined migrants. Second-generation Cuban-American Marcos Zamora is a military vet, more patriotic than most Americans. No longer able to ignore the chaos at his doorstep, he acts. Joined by his best friend Gus, they hit the border every night, saving lives while stopping violent drug cartels and other opportunists. The government reacts with fury at Marcos' attempts to preserve American sovereignty, deploying the full might of their enforcement agencies. But Marcos understands that the only thing the rich and powerful fear is bad publicity, and he records every encounter. Whoever he is, this private American must be stopped. Illustrated by Richard Bonk and written by Eisner winner Mike Barron, Private American is his version of Captain America, and maybe a little Punisher, taking part in this ongoing, violent, and very real battle of good versus evil in the war for American sovereignty. Grab your copy at theprivateamerican.com.
We have a secure border, and that is a priority for our administration.
In a world where creatures of myth and legend exist, a covert task force is charged with keeping humanity safe from supernatural threats. And when young Nancy Moon stumbles into the eternal battle between good and evil, she finds... Oh my God, will you shut up? What's happening? Agent Beckett here. Aren't you tired of stuff like that? Want something different? Roll the tape. Whoops. Sorry about that. That's a song I'm writing for my ex. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's more like it. Alrighty. Welcome to the world of the mythicals. We have it all. Monsters. Magic. Government agents. He's the strong silent type. This guy. Ugh, gross, dude. Get some kind of cream or something. Lots of 90s style action. Pew pew pew. And that strong female lead alluded to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention a dashing field commander with a great sense of fashion. Look at those glasses. South River Studios presents The Mythicals, Issue 1. Buy it, if you dare. Ugh, will you can it already? How'd you get free? Now beat it before I lose my cool. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today. Like right now.
Sign up today on Indiegogo.
How do you end this thing? How do you put the where's the brakes on this bus? I forgot.
Jazz hands. Jazz hands.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit CB4